Hey loves, always remember that you can manifest the absolute perfect love in your reality and you don't have to take no for an answer. So, this is usually something that we encounter because, right as we begin to assume the state, we're going to see our external reality sometimes doesn't instantly reflect exactly what we're thinking. Everybody who's done manifestation, law of assumption, or just lived a normal life would realize this. We do need to assume the state first, and then we're going to see something or exactly what we assume reflected onto our external reality. But always remember, you are the creator and you can have anything. Like I mentioned, you don't have to take no for an answer, but we do have to get into that mindset of knowing and persisting and asking for exactly what you want no matter what. And we all know this, right? But as we begin to implement it, there's actually some kind of effect or thinking that begins to take place that causes us to not persist in that outcome. And it's the idea that, let's say right now, with your specific person, they're showing up in your reality, but not in the exact way that you want, right? So maybe they're showing up for you, but not calling you as much, or showing up and not texting you, or not being as generous or kind, whatever it is. We begin to think, okay, obviously I need to continue and persist in the outcome that we desire. But sometimes it is very difficult to say no to a reality that is somewhat in accordance with what you want, but not perfectly. And the example, I was going to save this for later, but the example is, how hard would it be to turn down $100,000 for the chance to get $1 million? And as we know, manifestation isn't a chance wise process, or it's not going to be, it's not up for, or it's not up in the air. If you assume a state, you are absolutely going to get what you desire. But let's say if we had $100,000 sitting right in front of us and they're like, would you like this, or would you like to accept or change this out for a possibility of $1 million? It's not really a possibility, but we feel like it's a possibility. How difficult is that decision to make? You'd be like, it kind of is, because obviously we would rather have $1 million rather than 100,000, but $100,000 isn't bad at all, and you would be happy with it, but it's not exactly what you want. And this same thing happens with our specific persons. So they may show up, maybe you're in a friends with benefits relationship, or maybe you guys are in communication a lot, but they're not showing that they're going to be committed to the relationship with you. In that case, that's the 100,000 that's showing up, and we're like, I like this, I don't love this, it's pretty great, but it's not perfect. And that's when we have to let that go in order to allow the $1 million to come into our reality. Because if we're assuming a state with our specific person that's not exactly perfect, that's what we're going to continue and reiterate until we let that go and allow the actual best version or best reality to show up in the exact way that you want. Here's exactly how we're going to do this. So think about when your specific person shows up in a way that you don't necessarily love. How do you react? You're like, I'm going to accept this, but I don't love this. But why do we feel the resistance to saying no to that, right? So if your SP shows up in the way that you want, what's the problem with persisting in the exact desire you want and saying no to this less than perfect reflection in your external reality? You would say, well, what if I say no to this and then I don't get anything better? That's our fear. But remember, when you are saying no to something in your external reality, so when your specific person shows up as a friends with benefits or whatever it is, and you say no to that, you're not saying no to your specific person. That's what I want you to keep in mind this entire time, and it's going to completely change the way that you actually perceive these sorts of things in your reality. When you say no to that reality, you don't want the friends with benefits, you don't want the weeks on end without messaging, you don't want anything less than exactly what you desire. When you say no to that, you're not saying no to them, you're saying no to that reality with them, or that version of them showing up in that way in your reality. Because as you say no, and as you continue to persist in what you desire, your reality and your subconscious are going to give you exactly what it is that you are assuming to be. So when you say no, I know it really feels like we're pushing away $100,000. But really, I want you to switch that thinking in your mind to remember you're not pushing away 100,000, you're getting a million. And so you're not pushing away your specific person, you're pushing away that specific version of them, because you have every single version and every single manifestation you could ever desire, ever want, ever even think of alive within you at this very moment. So saying no to one thing is saying yes to a different state. And when we actually begin to view it in that way, it seems so much easier, so much better, but we're still going to have, again, that fear inside of you that by saying no, your SB is never going to talk to you again, but that's not going to be the case. I've had so many people in coaching sessions show up with the same idea and that same fear. I've had that same fear in the past before. But when you say no, you're not saying no to that thing, you're saying yes to something better. And I've never ever seen this sort of action or this idea or assumption not work in your reality. Because as you begin to demand in a loving and positive way exactly what you want out of your reality, it has no choice but to give it to you in that exact way. Your subconscious mind and your reality are really desiring to give you everything that you could ever want. So we just need to be in the acceptance, the feeling and assumption of acceptance of everything in our reality, and keep that assumption that everything is always working out in your favor. So then if your specific person shows up with acting in a certain way and you want something better, again, you get shown the $100,000 and you want a million, you can definitely say no thank you to that in a totally loving and positive and abundant way. No to that, because I'm saying yes to the $1 million. But remember also, when you begin to say no to things in your reality, you never want it to come off in a less than positive way. So when you're saying no to your specific person, we're not saying no to punish them, to be angry, to try to force our external reality. Because sometimes we can actually approach situations like that, and it actually begins to create the opposite effect. Because as you're trying to force your reality, you are then acting as someone who doesn't have the thing and are trying really, really hard to get it through the use of negative emotions. But when we say no in a loving, positive, and abundant way, I would almost say no in a way of your opinion, right? If someone says you should like the color green and you like the color blue, you would say, thank you for that, but I like the color blue, and that's okay if you don't. So that's how we want to approach our reality, because that's the version of yourself that is already accepted and gained exactly what you want. Because imagine, and I think I used this analogy in the past, imagine you have a version of your specific person that isn't the way you want, and the version of your specific person that is right in front of you. Both you look at two identical versions of your SP. One acts, again, not in the way you want, one does. How do you feel about trying to force the version of your SP that isn't acting in the way you want? How much do you feel, or how obligated are you feeling to force them to act in the way you want? You'd be like, well, not at all, right? You're thinking, I have access to this perfect individual, my specific person, the perfect love, exactly how I've always wanted. Why would I feel the need to force a version of them to act in that way when I already have access to that? And that's how I want you to approach everything in your reality, because you can actually use this idea outside of manifesting a specific person. If you're manifesting money, manifesting wealth, career, success, a house, whatever it is, you can use this idea and it's going to work perfectly. So remember, what I want you to take away from this, when you say no to your specific person, when you say no to your reality, you're not saying no to them, you're saying no to that version of them. And when you're saying no, you're not saying no to 100,000, you're saying yes to a million. So let me know if you did have any questions about that. Leave it in the comments section below. Also, remember, you can reach out to me on my website, KyleAugustCoaching.com, if you wanted to send me a personal question or you wanted to sign up for one-on-one coaching. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on this video, and then don't forget to subscribe. But thank you so much for stopping by today. I can't wait to see you in the next video.